Good morning. I'd like to thank Jacques Attali and the Positive Economy Forum team for this invitation this morning. I'm going to share our experience in Grande-Synthe over the past few months. Just to describe the setting, Grande-Synthe is a workers' city just outside Dunkirk. It was born of industrial needs in the 60s. Using our iron steel factory was set up at the time. And the village, which comprised 1,500 market gardeners, grew exponentially and housed workers at the plant. When there was this massive inflow of refugees last year, I'd like to say that this is a city born of immigration, because to find workers at the time, France needed to import people from Spain, Italy, Portugal, North Africa, in order to work in our industrial plants. The city suffered from deindustrialization. 33% of households live under the poverty threshold. Annual average income is 9,600 euros. Just to explain the context of this great crisis in terms of migration. There are a lot of things that mayors can do. A lot of people lack political daring. One can find solutions which no one has tried before. That's important. In situations like mine, where the population can lose its dignity given social problems, we're there to enable them to live in a dignified manner. I've been fighting for the past 16 years on this front. I want my population to live in a dignified way, and I give them the right to housing, food. We're 100% organic in all the school canteens. I want to provide access to health, because it's often a vicious circle. Health ranks last. Access to energy, access to culture, access to education, and the right to a good quality environment. When you're the mayor of a commune like that, with a population in such difficulty, you end up having to cope with all the crises, the economic crises, with unemployment that I mentioned earlier on, financial crises, food crises, farming crises, health crises, given the state of health of the local population. Then more recently, the migration crisis, which has hit us too. I was told to tell you about our experience and what we did. There are refugees, there have been refugees in the town since 2006, 2007. In fact, they were just passing through. In my commune, there is a gas station on the route to Calais, and they would board trucks at the gas station and try to get to England. There are between 20 and 80 refugees in a given part of the town. And associations like Emmaüs and others quickly came to help them, to bring them clothes and a bit of food. Things worked fairly well, and then in the winter of 2008, these associations called on us. It was really cold, -15, and women and children, refugees, were turning up. We didn't hesitate. We gave them a heated tent so that everyone could warm up a bit, because it was a really harsh winter. And bit by bit, as the years went by, we set up several tents, and then as there were families, we set up little cabins so that the families could have somewhere decent to live. There were toilets, and we set up a water supply and a shuttle system. So people could be taken to have a shower in various parts of the city where there were such facilities. And then the assistant prefect said, you're crazy, they're going to turn up by the hundreds, there'll be a lack of security. As this was on a municipal land, we can't intervene. You'll be the sole people responsible if something happens. We continued to welcome this policy based on human dignity. I said, whatever the person, I simply don't want someone to die of hunger or cold on the land where I'm responsible as mayor. And then from 2008 to 2015, the average number was about 60 refugees, and things worked fairly well. We thought about creating a sort of a migrants temporary shelter for people just passing through, for about 100 people. And in July of last year, the French state decided, together with England, to block the border in Calais, to put up barbed wire and bring in the police, and therefore numbers swelled in Calais and Grande-Synthe. The numbers went from 60 in July to 540 end of September, and 2,800 by December of last year. And we have a population of 22,000 inhabitants in all. I called on the state at that time, and I said, well, okay, I'm happy to do something for the people there, but don't stop them coming in such large numbers. We'll be overwhelmed. The conditions will become inhuman. We'll have to find something. Nothing was found. Every week, every day, 30 new people turned up at the camp, and then there were the 13 November terrorist attacks. There were other priorities, so I decided to anticipate. I didn't want us to turn into Calais, which is totally unmanageable and uncontrollable. So I called on Médecins Sans Frontières, which helped us to build a sort of a camp, which would provide a minimum of dignity and humanity. It was strong-arm tactics with the French state, because they said, well, this will create a fixed place where people come just outside Calais. And they said that I'd help the work of the passeurs, the people helping these refugees to get to England. We decided, in any case, to put up the camp, despite what the government said. We invested 4 million euros to build the camp. Médecins Sans Frontières put up some of the money, and we and Dunkerque shared the rest. And as I didn't want this camp to fall into the hands of the passeurs, because 190 people in August came, and we added toilets and showers, and the first night the passeurs locked the doors of the showers and tried to make people pay. So I didn't want this to happen. I wanted things to be free of charge. And in the new camp, we had to be present 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to manage the situation. That entails a lot of cost. You have to have permanent staff. You had to clean the toilets, collect the waste. We had to organize things properly. The cost was 4 million a year for the operating cost of the camp. On the 7th March, the move was made. When we moved by March, there were only 1,300 refugees left in the camp, because a lot went through Belgium and the Netherlands, and they went through those countries to get to England. 1,300 in March, and now there are 800. There wasn't this exponential growth as in Calais, because we properly managed the camp. I always said I would welcome people in Grande-Synthe, and as people left, I would reduce the camp so that the local population would accept this better. I undertook to reduce the numbers. I didn't want people to feel aggressed by the huge numbers of refugees. I wanted things to work happily. Now there are 800. When there were 1,300, I said the camp couldn't take any more. Now there are 800, and I say the camp is full with 800. That means that people are left by the roadside, but I wanted our solution to be able to be copied by other communes. I was very pleased to get people from the Paris town hall come by just a few weeks after we opened up the camp, because people were wondering about Paris. Anne Hidalgo has announced to open a similar camp. It will work a little bit differently for various reasons that I fully understand, in Paris and in Ivry-sur-Seine. Why? Because the solution of a camp is not satisfactory. We just had to cope with an emergency situation. There are other solutions, of course, that can be found and implemented. People can be welcomed in small communes, like here in Le Havre, where there are 350 refugees who have been welcomed in just normal apartments. I think we can do this kind of thing in the country. The state signed an agreement with us. It covered the 4 million in operating costs a year. I'm very happy with the solution, because I think it will be able to be copied. This raises the issue of states that refuse to reach an agreement. We saw how difficult it was at COP21. You can see how difficult it is to really enforce everybody's commitments. And the locally elected people can do a lot. We can find solutions in terms of climate change and also in terms of this migration crisis. There are networks in Lampedusa, Lesbos, Ventimiglia, Grande-Synthe, Paris, and other big cities, and I think this situation will come from the locally elected politicians. We'll be able to find local solutions for this global problem. We have this huge migratory crisis, and I think this is just the beginning. There are hundreds of thousands, or several million refugees flowing towards Europe, and it's not a camp like mine, which is going to attract huge numbers. It's the attractiveness of Europe that draws these people. And it's just the beginning, because I think people talk about 450 to 500 million climate refugees over the next 20 years. We'll have to get ready for this kind of a situation. In terms of Europe, we adopt the Amsterdam Pact last May, and in the chapter Sustainable Cities, which is being set up in Europe, there's a line which talks about including refugees and migrants in the cities. Including migrants and refugees is on the agenda of the Quito Summit, Habitat 3 of the UN in Quito in a couple of weeks' time in October. So this is what we did in Grande-Synthe. We decided to provide a humane treatment for these people, and it's a real source of wealth. 10,000 volunteers have been working in the camp since August. There are 50 European associations from the UK, Spain, Italy, Switzerland. They've come to give a hand, and it's a wonderful human adventure. Everyone gains from it. Volunteers keep saying that they came to contribute something, but that they get much more in return. And I think that's the future. We can build something all together. Thank you.